So when is the NC-16 Widening Project actually going to happen?
The project is currently in design at 75% plans, known as what we know as right-of-way plans. These plans will be used during right-of-way/easement acquisition, and that phase recently began and is expected to take approximately 2 years to complete.
Okay, so after that 2 years, then what happens? This is Waxhaw Happenings, the podcast. We talk about what matters to Waxhaw residents and make it easy to understand what's going on in your town. I'm Bradley Lucore, your Public Information Officer and Communications Manager for the Town of Waxhaw. In today's episode, we're breaking down one of the most asked questions we hear from Waxhaw residents. What's happening with NC-16 and when is the widening actually going to happen? Joining me today is James Kelly, our Traffic Transportation Project Engineer here at the Town of Waxhaw, and we're excited to be joined by two members of the North Carolina Department of Transportation team, Donald Griffith, the NC-16 Widening Project Manager, and Jen Goodwin, the Communications Officer. Let's get started. Thank you both for being on here.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so for residents who may not know how the state road projects work, can you explain NCDOT's role on NC-16 and why this is a state project rather than a town project? And give us an overview of the project as well.
Sure. So the North Carolina Department of Transportation, NCDOT, is responsible for the widening and improvement project on NC-16 Providence Road because it is a state-maintained highway and not a local town road. NCDOT oversees the planning, environmental studies, property acquisition, and construction for such major thoroughfares. So, and we'll get to provide more information here shortly, but an overview is widening NC-16 from Waxhaw Parkway to Ray Road.
And sometimes it's referred to as U5769. What does that project number mean for people who don't really understand what project labels are?
So U projects are specifically aimed at improving urban areas, usually focusing on reducing traffic congestion, improving safety, and increasing capacity in cities and towns. U5769, you'll also hear it referred to as U5769A and U5769B, as there are two segments that create U5769 as a whole. But as I said, it begins near Waxhaw Parkway and runs north to just beyond Ray Road, including the communities of Waxhaw, Marvin, and Weddington. Improvements proposed include widening NC-16 to a 4-lane divided facility with a combination of conventional full movement intersections and reduced conflict intersections, also known as RCIs. The purpose of these proposed improvements is to relieve congestion and improve traffic operations, reduce congestion-related crashes, and improve safety as traffic volumes increase in the future.
So let me ask you, where does the project stand right now, and what is the active phase today?
The project is currently in design at 75% plans, known as what we know as right-of-way plans. These plans will be used during right-of-way/easement acquisition, and that phase recently began and is expected to take approximately 2 years to complete.
Okay, so after that 2 years, then what happens?
After that 2 years, we would begin utility relocation throughout the corridor, which is also expected to take approximately 2 years. The current schedule does anticipate construction beginning between late 2029 and mid-2030, with completion of the construction expected around 2035. Given the size and complexity of the project, it's unlikely that schedule will be accelerated. Right-of-way acquisition, as we know, is already underway and is planned to take about 2 years, followed by an additional 2 years for the utility relocation. But because NCDOT does not manage or control the utility companies responsible for relocating numerous utilities along the corridor, every utility possible is along this corridor for sure. These activities are dependent on the utility providers' timelines. However, we work closely with them to help ensure progress occurs as efficiently as possible. NCDOT believes the schedule represents a reasonable time frame to complete both processes. While unforeseen delays are possible, the goal is to mitigate impacts quickly and maintain the current schedule.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's great information for people to have and kind of put a timeline on it while knowing that with any construction project, there could be delays, there could be shifts in the timeline. A lot of people have been seeing surveyors along NC-16 or some kind of surveying work, people with
Yes.
safety vests on. Could you kind of explain what's going on there?
Yes. So as we go through right-of-way negotiations, right-of-way easement negotiations, it's important to be able to show these property owners what exactly we're talking about. Give them a visual of what these acquisition needs look like. So what you're seeing out there are survey crews staking the right-of-way, the proposed right-of-way and easement needs for the project. As right-of-way agents approach property owners, they're able to give that visual based on the stakes in the ground that you're seeing that these surveyors put, identify them as easement, identify them as right of way. It's really helpful. You can imagine if a right of way agent came to you and wanted to negotiate some property needs from you as a property owner, but could not really pinpoint what the need was, you'd be a little hesitant, and I mean I would myself. So the staking is a visual aid for that process.
So if you see those stakes in the ground, don't go rip them up. Is that what I'm hearing?
Please don't. They're there to benefit as the process happens. Yeah.
So is there anything that property owners should be doing right now?
So property owners along the corridor need to be aware that NCDOT right-of-way agents and or authorized representatives, because we have partnered with an acquisition firm to help with this process. They'll be contacting them, and in some cases already have made contact with property owners to discuss and negotiate right-of-way / easement acquisition needs. The next phase will be utility court relocation, and that will begin once the right-of-way / easement acquisition process is complete around late 27 to mid 2028.
Donald, going back to right-of-way and right-of-way acquisition, could you just help to explain that process a little bit further, the overview of that? Because folks, when they hear right-of-way, they don't know what all that entails and what that means.
Sure. Right-of-way agents or the representatives will reach out and make contact to the property owners, make time to meet with them and to discuss what the right-of-way or easement needs are, and explain why these needs are present and what they look like. So with the right-of-way acquisition process, depending on the size of the claim, the size being the cost value of the claim, our right-of-way agents could approach the property owners using a claim report, which is an NCDOT internal claim report, or use certified licensed appraisers to determine what the value of that acquisition need is. From there, the right-of-way agent during acquisition will present the appraised value with the offer. That at that point they would negotiate. The property owners certainly have the opportunity to negotiate their counter offer, we'll say. It's important for the property owners and the general public to understand that NCDOT is required to follow state and federal law established to protect and inform property owners of their rights during right-of-way acquisition and relocation if relocation is needed. NCDOT also provides resources that explain right-of-way process in more detail. There's a short YouTube video that kind of explains the process, so that'll be helpful for you to be able to share with your listeners. And we also have a thorough document that also, it's a written version of the explanation of this process that you can share with your folks.
Yeah, thanks for answering that question. I know that seems to be one of the primary questions we get is from folks is what is right-of-way? What does that mean? So thank you for that clarification.
Sure, absolutely.
Let's talk about what happens after the construction begins. What should residents and businesses along the NC-16 corridor expect when it does begin? Traffic impacts, access changes, that kind of thing.
Sure. With any roadway construction project of this size and type, Residents should expect construction equipment and activities adjacent to the roadway, uneven pavement surfaces, and changes in traffic patterns along NC-16 and the side roads within the project limits. These conditions may create delays and may be inconvenient at times, but they are often the result of safety-related processes put in place to protect both workers and the traveling public. Access to homes and businesses will be required by contract to be maintained throughout the entire project. While access might not look exactly the same each day or as it does today, it will be maintained nonetheless. In essence, it's similar to renovating your kitchen at home. There may be a little dust while the work is underway, but the result will be a much improved facility once the project is complete.
I like the analogy about the kitchen, because when we had to redo our kitchen, like you said, there was quite a bit of dust, but we still had access to that kitchen.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the town and NCDOT's partnership. What does NCDOT working with the town of Waxhaw look like on a project like this, and what kind of coordination do we have? Because I think a lot of residents have a misunderstanding of, well, it's DOT or it's the town, but it's really, I think it's kind of a mix of the two.
Sure. So during construction, NCDOT will assign a resident engineer to oversee the construction activities and administer the construction contract. The resident engineer will provide updates as needed and or as requested if you're not getting updates when you have questions come through, to keep the town of Waxhaw informed of the progress, traffic shifts, and other notable activities. So the day-to-day activities will be the responsibility of NCDOT, but coordinating and providing information so that you can share it with your community will happen daily or as often as needed throughout the life of the project.
And I know a lot of residents will be happy to hear that they'll be kept up to date, and we'll continue to provide those updates on our website and social media, wherever they get information from now. So let's talk about the design of the road itself. You mentioned reduced conflict intersections. Can you explain what those are and why they're part of this project?
In North Carolina, RCIs are an innovative roadway design used by North Carolina Department of Transportation to improve safety, traffic flow. They're also known as super streets or synchronized streets or median U-turns. So your listeners may hear this roadway improvements referred that way as well. So the primary goal of an RCI is to simplify travel by reducing conflict points, the locations where vehicles could potentially collide. Instead of allowing drivers on a side road to turn left or travel straight across a busy main road, the design directs them to turn right first. After turning right, drivers continue a short distance, typically less than 1,000 feet, before entering a dedicated lane to make a safe U-turn. A traditional four-way intersection has 32 of these potential conflict points, whereas an RCI reduces that number to 14, significantly lowering the risk of severe right angle or T-bone crashes.
So a lot of this goes back to safety then. So a big part of this
Correct.
project, you would say, is to make the road a lot safer.
Correct.
Very good.
I'd like to share some interesting facts about RCIs also while we're here.
Sure.
So in 2023, NCDOT's Traffic Safety Unit completed a safety study of 31 reduced conflict intersections, RCIs, that were constructed without traffic signals in North Carolina between 2009 and 2017. The overall results were 50% reduction in total crashes, 80% reduction in frontal impact crashes, which are associated with serious injuries and head-on or T-bone collisions. Also, an intersection with traffic signal requires several phases to move drivers through the intersection, increasing travel time. A 2010 study by North Carolina State University conducted for NCDOT found there was an average 20% time saving for all drivers at any time of day using a signalized reduced conflict intersection compared to a conventional corridor. Drivers on the minor street who need to turn right and then make a U-turn to travel in their intended direction will require an average 20 seconds of travel. So side street drivers receive the benefits of safer corridor with only a minimal increase in their commute.
And those U-turns are also known as Michigan lefts. Is that correct?
At one point in time, yes, we're trying to move toward median U-turn as the term, but yes, a Michigan left is also known for the same movement.
Very good. So how long has this project been in the pipeline? And can you help our residents understand how NCDOT's project prioritization process works and why timelines could shift?
Sure, and that's a great question. I ask that you bear with me, as it might take a minute to paint the whole picture.
Sure.
So the prioritization process happens in cycles. For example, this project began as R3802, widening NC-16 from Ray Road to NC-75, and was scored during prioritization 1.0 or prioritization cycle 1.0, which took place in 2009 to 2011. Also, we refer to these prioritization cycles P1, P2, etc. So scored again in P2, 2011 to 2013, scored a third time in P3 in 2013 to 2015. A related project widening NC-16 from Ray Road to Cuthbertson Road only was also scored in P3. Both projects were ultimately funded during prioritization cycle P4. So that's 2015 to 2017, resulting in the current TIP projects that we know now as U5769A, which is widening NC-16 from Ray Road to Cuthbertson Road, and U5769B, which is widening NC-16 from Cuthbertson Road to Waxhaw Parkway. There's creating your entire corridor with the A and B sections. Projects often appear in multi-prioritization cycles because they compete statewide against other candidate projects, and only the highest scoring projects are funded in each cycle. And of course, there's limited funds per cycle. Prioritization cycles P1 through P3 mark NCDOT's transition to the strategic data-driven SPOT process, SPOT being an acronym for State Prioritization Office of Transportation, used to select projects for the STIP, also an acronym for State Transportation Improvement Program, from approximately 2009 to 2015. This framework established the basis for the current method of updating the 10-year STIP every 2 years. NCDOT is preparing prioritization cycle P8 to develop the 2028 to 2037 STIP, in which projects are evaluated using measures such as congestion, cost benefit, safety, and local input. So through this process, NCDOT coordinates closely with Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization, CRTPO, of which Waxhaw is a member. The regional transportation planning process involves coordination among stakeholders and provides opportunities for public involvement. Project selection reflects joint input from both NCDOT and the planning organization to identify transportation needs within the region. However, for this project, it is important to note it experienced a significant delay since it was suspended in August 2019 due to statewide funding shortfalls, but was restarted in July 2023. It is currently moving forward as a fully committed and funding project. So that delay, that increase in delay is somewhat atypical, but wanted to note that for you and your listeners.
So when you say it's now a fully committed and funded project, that means we are basically going to get the road. It's just a matter of time now.
Correct. That is correct. It is funded through the STIP, and funds are allocated for it.
So I guess what I'm hearing is there's a lot more that goes into road prioritization and funding across the state than a lot of people are used to knowing about, really.
There's quite a bit. And it's one thing that, we often forget is that these projects do compete statewide against other projects similar to this. So hence the reason for it being scored through multiple cycles.
When residents have questions or concerns about this project, what's the best way for them to reach NCDOT and ask these kind of questions?
So there is a public information website, a web page with a project email address and a phone number. Questions or comments should go to one of those. And Jen is going to post a link to that webpage for us in the chat so that you can share with your listeners. So from there, the question or comment will be directed to the appropriate person and answers provided back to the requester directly. You can also request information using Contact Us on the NCDOT.gov webpage. Once you're there, you'll click Contact on the right side of the orange ribbon and scroll down to Other NCDOT Issue or Question and enter your information or question there. It will then be routed to the appropriate subject matter expert, and they will provide a response. So the direct route is through the web page or Contact Us, but it will go to the appropriate subject matter expert from that point. And if further discussion is needed, that dialogue can continue. It's not just a one-off. It would continue if the requester had additional comments or questions once they got their response.
Good. Yeah. So that means there's a quite a few ways to reach you guys if people have questions. Is there anything else that you want to talk about this project that we haven't asked you?
Project specific, I don't really have anything more to add. I'm certainly open to questions. If you have them come up later, reach out. We'll certainly field any questions that come up through your side of things. We continue to field them on our side as well. I know you've been getting questions and comments from folks, and we are as well through the Contact Us. So I would like to thank the Town of Waxhaw and Waxhaw Happenings, the podcast. We're thankful to be here today, and we're thankful for you giving us the opportunity to share this information and being part of what I know will be a successful, informative podcast for your community. We're looking forward to delivering this important project to the residents of Waxhaw and the surrounding area, and we're always available for questions or concerns. So please continue to reach out as they come along. And please remember the public information website, the Contact Us, and the right-of-way acquisition resources mentioned earlier that's been dropped in your chat. But other than that, we just thank you for the time and the opportunity.
Thank you. I couldn't have said it better myself. And we really appreciate the plug for the Waxhaw Happenings podcast from you as well. It's great to have a guest plug it for us. So once again, we've had Donald Griffith, the NC-16 Widening Project manager with NCDOT, and Jen Goodwin, the communications officer with NCDOT, and James Kelly, our traffic transportation project engineer. We'll be right back. That wraps up today's episode. If you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, send us an email at communications@waxhaw.com. That's communications@waxhaw.com. Stay tuned for the next episode of Waxhaw Happenings, available anywhere you get your podcast.